I'm kind of on my own. I'm on an island. We all are in this business, but as a team, as a whole, we're not really connected. We're interconnected. We do a lot of cross-line support work, and we have some great connections with some different teams, but our team as a whole is pretty fragmented from just years of like machine gun work.
Mhm.
We're all over the place. And so it really does even take extra effort at this point because there isn't that unity, that family. It's like fragmented, pieces that we just sort of draw together. I'm constantly like re-hemming people to the edge of of this blanket, and trying to and hem everybody and create that. But it's I'm not willing to give up. That's it. I'm just not willing to give up. I'm going to keep moving forward.
Hey everyone, I'm excited for this one today. I've got a really good friend on the podcast with us, and we've got a lot of stories we could tell, Melissa. Uh, Maybe we'll tell some of the stories, but I've got Melissa Grimes with us today. She is a dear friend, known her for, like I said, a while, but been wildly successful in this crazy world of network marketing. And so thanks for being on the podcast, Melissa.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely. It's an
Yeah,
honor.
so give the listeners a little bit of background about where were you raised, and what was young Melissa like?
Oh boy. We probably don't want to go back that far, but I was actually raised in Jensen Beach, Florida, grew up in a little beach town, very typical middle class household. Not, we didn't do a lot. Like my family, we didn't grow up doing a lot or having a lot of things. When you talk about some of the things that kind of influence where we are today, I thought a lot about that, and I kind of grew up in that environment of we can't afford that kind of middle class aspect, but I loved where I grew up, loved the beach, and it definitely put a stamp on me for this Florida lifestyle. But
Were your parents W-2
Oh,
employees? Did they both work?
absolutely employee mindset all the way. There was not a stitch of entrepreneurship in there at all. Yeah, and no
Where do
passion
you
as
think you
well.
got it? Where do you think you got it from?
I was a very passionate individual always. Whatever I got involved with, I was very passionate for. And so the idea of not being passionate about your work, I saw them just go to jobs, 8 to 5, just like plowing a field kind of mindset. And that just did not appeal to me. I didn't know what the answer was, but that type of a lifestyle just didn't connect at all. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself, to be honest. In fact, very quickly, I did not go right into college just from a financial perspective. It wasn't something that was uh, kind of pushed in our family, and but I started to attend a 2 year college. And as I was waiting tables, to pay the bills, to pay for my college, to kind of move forward with whatever I was going to do in life, I remember the kids that I graduated high school with coming back from FSU with their 4 year degree in like political science or some other various major that provided them not a job. And suddenly they were waiting tables with me. And it really laid a ground. Like I was like, okay, here I was like, I was supposed to go do that. And here they are back doing what I'm doing, which is basically lost, trying to find a way. So it was a pivotal teaching moment. And it said, I didn't know what to do with that, but I do remember it very clearly. Like, okay, that wasn't the answer. This is still not the answer either. But what they did was not the answer.
So what year was that when
I
you?
graduated high school in 91. So that was probably around 92, 93.
Okay.
It was kind of like the second year of college. And I was just taking general courses, business, all of that type of, I was like trying to find my passion, trying to find what I wanted to be when I grew up, so to speak. And it just, I taught my kids the same thing in the aspect of, I find it very difficult for us as parents How does anyone want to know what they want to do with the rest of their life when they're 17, 18 years old? So to take, $100,000 and throw it into a college education, of course, now we know that isn't the answer, but that was the pigeonhole. That was all you knew. That was what was
Mhm.
taught at that point. And
Mhm.
I didn't fit into that at all. And I didn't know where I was going to fit, but I wasn't going to go that route. So,
It's funny. My children, about their age. My oldest is just turned 19, out of school, and people always ask me, oh, he's out of high school. So what college is he in? And when I go, he's probably never going to college, they look at me like I'm almost a bad dad. Like they're
yeah,
like stunned. And I'm like, you do know it's 2024, right? Like you do know that the years of going to school, going to college, and getting a secure job, that ship sailed. Like
absolutely. A
it's just
hundred
funny that
percent.
it's still like ingrained. You said it was ingrained in the 90s. Well, it's still ingrained in
I
people. Like
know.
it's still there to a great degree. So you were waiting tables. What did you do next after waiting tables?
I mean, I gigged. I mean, literally, like I pursued passions is what I did. I pursued random passions. I was always passionate about animals. I ended up like going to Washington D.C. To pursue this volunteer slash internship position and the actually for HSUS. That kind of but in the midst of it, I'm gigging. I'm waiting tables. I worked in the retail sector. I worked hourly jobs. I was 20, 21, 22. I ended up just being really good from a customer service perspective. I have always had very good interpersonal skills and relationship building skills. And so I just ended up working my way into the restaurant realm, more of a professional realm, went more into management from that aspect and thought, okay, I don't know what I want to do, but I've been really good at this. I grew up in the restaurant business, and this is where I was. And in the midst of it, I've always side gigged in the fitness realm.
Mhm.
Fitness and nutrition was always a passion, so I was always doing a little bit of something along the on the side. I never had one career. I was always kind of gigging. I never considered, even at the most professional level in the restaurant business, I never really considered it somewhere that I was going to stay. It's just where I landed. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Um, I when I look back at the things I did to make money, I never saw it coming. Like I worked in elevators. I worked in construction. I did all kind of crazy things. And it's just funny how life kind of has those twists and
Yep.
turns. So um when it comes to your entry into network marketing, did how were you introduced? Were you slow to say yes? Were you fast to say yes? Like tell us how you found your way to network marketing.
I found my way into it actually from a client that I was working with at the time. We owned actually a restaurant by this point, living out in Arizona, and we owned a group of franchises, three. But again, it wasn't my passion, it wasn't something I loved. It's just where we were, and I was teaching nutrition and working as a personal trainer. And I had a client that had been introduced to a product that she wanted to take, but she wanted my permission as of sorts. And so it forced me to look at it. Immediately, once I knew that it was in the network marketing professional, I was kind of cautious. Of course, you have that mindset of like, oh, it's just another one of those things. It can't be real. You don't want to mess with that. We've got you on a good program. Don't mess it up. But it forced me to really take a look at it, and very, very quickly saw something I'd never seen before. Because I had my sister, who you also know, worked in the nutritional, field, basically owned like a GNC type store. I called her immediately and asked her about it. I'm like, hey, have you ever heard of this condition called, have you ever heard of this product?
Yeah.
What can you tell me about this? And that's kind of how it led. The biggest attractor was at the end of the day was the wellness approach. I was a very wellness focused person, always looking for the idea of going upstream to deal with health conditions, and there weren't a lot of answers for that. Um, so um, I was a hard sell, I would say, yet at the same time, because it was so unique and there was just something very special about it at that moment that it was an easy sell as at the same time. Within 2 weeks, I was enrolled.
Okay, within 2 weeks. That was going to be my next question. Like, did she have to follow up a few times? What was that process like?
She did have to follow up a few times. I didn't realize her, her involvement truly. I thought initially she really was just kind of looking for that approval.
Mhm.
But we had the unique opportunity to meet the original CEO, right off the bat before we enrolled, and was coming through town and actually sat at our kitchen table.
Mm.
And what attracted me more than the product or the network marketing or anything like that was there was a spark in his eye, like he had a vision. He was taking this, like this is what I'm doing, this is where we're going, and this is what we're looking for. And I knew I was hungry for that projection. I was hungry for, yes, I 100% was wellness focused and all of that aligned, but it was like the spark in his eye and the idea that this is what's happening. And we have a choice, yes or no, to go along with him. And I was like, yes,
Ooh,
that was the draw.
that's powerful. That's powerful. So, um, I'm interested. She approached you from a health standpoint, but within 2 weeks, when you say you enrolled, were you enrolled as a customer or did you enroll as a distributor consultant?
Oh, right away as a distributor.
See, that's interesting. So, how did she pivot? Do you remember like, how did it go from a product conversation to do you want to join the business? Do you remember what that looked like?
I think it pivoted around the publicly traded aspect of the company. I think the stock was like 21 or 25 cents at the time, and the idea of being a part of the company as it was just really formulating attracted. And as they explained that aspect of it, because again, I was new, very new. I was very attracted to being a part of that core group, of being able to start the business from ground zero, that launch group. So I'm not
Awesome.
really sure of the exact conversation. I just knew that it was unique and that I felt in my heart that it was just a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it's definitely panned out to be just that.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So you've had incredible success. Your organizations have sold millions of dollars in product, and you've earned lots of money from those commissions. Able to do it. How long have you been doing network marketing full time?
Full time, I would say 12 years.
Right. So that's
12 years.
incredible. Like that's the ultimate goal for people is that they can stop side gigging. They can stop doing the other things and earn a full-time income from network marketing. So for someone that's out there listening to this, that maybe they've been doing network marketing for a while, maybe they're making a couple $1,000s a month. Um, how give someone some advice in how they transition, like how do they go from making a few thousand to being able to do this full time? What are some of the things that you had to do to go full time in this thing?
Oh gosh, I had to seek. I mean, there's so many things. I constantly put myself underneath mentors. I constantly aligned myself with people that were going in the direction that I wanted to go. I constantly worked to be just a student of the profession, and still to this day, I'm constantly pouring myself into to that aspect of it. I mean, I took it seriously. I worked. There was no like start and finish. It was just whenever it was needed. At the same time, my kids were young, and there were a lot of aspects of you could only do so much. But I took it seriously. I was passionate about it. The transition period, if I had to go back, and what I see has worked more for a lot of people, is yes, but stay where you are until you have the support or until you have the finances that you actually need. Because I've seen people leave their jobs too soon as well, to the point where then they jump in. And as we know, that this can be a cyclical roller coaster. You could be making, this much money one month, and then it's going to possibly drop a little bit. I mean, it's up and down. And so until it is consistent where you need it to be, until you've built other systems financially for security, I don't recommend that people jump out. But absolutely, it's possible. And I've seen so many people now do it that I just believe 100% that this is the most powerful industry, especially for women, especially for moms. I don't know another job that would have allowed the flexibility that I've had for being home with my kids, drop off and pick up, events, field trips, travel, all of that. So in that aspect, I mean, that's why I tell people run hard to this, because your family needs it, and the world needs it. I've been able to volunteer. I've been able to be involved in so many things at our church. And so it's just such a valuable, it's so much more than just earning a paycheck. It's you being who you are meant to be in the world. You don't get that in a regular job. When you have the freedom that network marketing provides, it allows you to be who you were destined to be, well beyond an 8 to 5.
You mentioned the vision from the guy that you sat down with, that's what kind of got your gut burning. Like you saw that vision, that you could see, you could feel something. How does someone, because I think that's what it takes to become really good at this business, is that you're able to paint a vision for people. You're able to tell people where you're going, and they have to know or feel that what you're saying is true.
Right.
And so how did you get to that point? Obviously, you got to the point where when you were talking to people, they could see in your eye that you were serious about this thing.
Right.
What were some of the action items? Was it events, like you said? Like, what were some of the things that you think helped you get to the point where people just knew this was going to happen?
Oh, wow. Um, I do think it's a stance. I mean, I do think it is an energy that you project. Absolutely. I don't know why I didn't mention events, because I can't imagine and can't say enough about the power of in-person live events. In fact, the power of person to person. He sat across the kitchen table from me, so there was that eye to eye, that knee to knee, that heart to heart that you hear so often. And we missed it. We missed it when we started using Zoom. And then, of course, COVID forced us into Zoom even full time. I love the aspect of us moving back to that face-to-face connection. But the events provide that. The events provide the power, the emotion, the connection to people, the stories. It always comes down to my story. I learned how to share my story. I didn't even know that I was doing it at the time, right? It's just that here's where I am. We feel stuck. The world is, it was 2007, 8, and 9. The economy had tanked. We owned 2 houses, neither of which we could sell. So as he's sitting across the kitchen table from me, telling me the story of where he was going, I knew I was stuck. And so as I told my story, people could see how serious I was, because I truly was sick and tired of being sick and tired. So all I did was tell the story to other people who were also sick and tired of being sick and tired, who also felt stuck, who also felt, like I was meant for more than this. The people that had that internal, that feeling inside of them. And so all that network marketing provided, and all I teach people is that it's just a vehicle. If you can allow it, yes, you got to get behind, you have to be passionate about it. Yes, it has to be real. Yes, whatever. But at the end of the day, if network marketing is just a vehicle that can get you from A to B, which the B is your passion, your draw, like the things that where the needs of the world are, and or the things that you want to do with your life, the things that you were destined to do. If network marketing could just provide a path for that, my gosh, show me any other path that's out there in the traditional realm. I've never seen one.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that 100%. What do you think when you see, you've had a lot of people join your organization, and we know that the majority of people don't have success in network marketing. And it's probably one of the biggest reasons why there's this stigma or black eye around network marketing, because so many people have done it and not been successful. So, have you been able to pinpoint why some have success and why others don't?
It is literally like stickiness. I mean, people get so easily afraid of other people's opinions. Their thoughts, what other people think of them, I think is one of the biggest factors. It's fear. I've been working with somebody relatively new, and they're just determined, and they're going to do this, and they're going to work, and they've been working this so hard. And I'm like, when you get down to it, you ask them, well, how many people have you actually invited? And they're like 10. I'm like, no, you don't understand, like what it takes. But they're already getting defeated from the few people that didn't have time to jump on, kind of made them feel silly. They didn't know the answers to the concerns and questions or whatever. People don't have a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like stickiness. Like they just are so quick to give up on give up on themselves, essentially. They
Yeah.
just don't have the stickiness for it. So it's
Yeah.
sad, but
Yeah.
it's really not that difficult. It really isn't. You just got to get past that initial period, but most people won't do it.
Yeah. I think you hit on the word that I pinpoint, and it's fear, and
Yeah.
how you react to fear, basically.
Right.
Like, we all are going to have, like, I am sure that when you got involved with network marketing, that you were told no way more than you were told yes.
And still am.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
so, what were some of the things that you think for you? Was it your vision? Was it the fear of being stuck where you're at? Was it the vision of this company you went with that was so great that you're like, I don't care what these people think? Or was it like you were so scared of where you were and knew you had to change? Was it like, what was it that think drove you through all those no's?
I would say yes, yes, and yes. Like all of those things, 100%, dependent upon the day, because it is such but yes, I was fear. It was absolute necessity. Like, what other options did we have? Like we couldn't stay where we were. I didn't have a path clearly to be outside of where I was. And the vision was so strong of where the company was going that I didn't want to miss out. There was definitely, yes, there was fear and how people felt about me, but there was also FOMO, like fear of missing out. Like I saw where this company was going. And if I didn't get past those my personal fears and insecurities, I wasn't going to be a part of it, because it was happening with or without me. And I wasn't willing to let it be without me. So that's really what it came down to.
Yeah, yeah. So, when it comes to what you see today in network marketing, like, could you pinpoint for you, like, there's different activities that we do, um, but if there's one action step that you've taken over and over and over again, when I say by action step, like, was it your event attendance? Was it your stubbornness? Was it your consistency? What is like the one thing that you think has helped you have the success you've had?
I would definitely say events. That is a 100%. I can't put enough emphasis on the significance of that. Even after all these years, the events still create in me the vision, the why, the connection. So 100% events. And then at the end of the day, it's the consistency of getting up on a daily basis, I'm a pen and paper person. I'll get up in the morning and go through where I'm at, what my lists, my follow-ups, all of that. I always have a Monday through Friday, sit down, write it down. So it's the events and the consistency, because I'm kind of on my own. I'm on an island. We all are in this business, but as a team, as a whole, we're not really connected. We're interconnected. We do a lot of cross-line support work, and we have some great connections with some different teams, but our team as a whole is pretty fragmented from just years of like machine gun work.
Mhm.
We're all over the place. And so it really does even take extra effort at this point because there isn't that unity, that family. It's like fragmented, pieces that we just sort of draw together. I'm constantly like re-hemming people to the edge of of this blanket, and trying to and hem everybody and create that. But it's I mean, I'm not willing to give up. That's it. I'm just not willing to give up. I'm going to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. What was, as you were coming through, there's everybody still has obstacles today. So let's talk about your early obstacles in your first year of doing network marketing. What were some of your biggest obstacles? Were there moments where you thought you were going to quit?
Oh yeah, there still is. I mean,
Mhm.
I still have moments like that. Absolutely. Initially, I would say the biggest obstacles were juggling the children, and also the finances of being able to. I mean, we were work to pay bills. Work to pay bills, work to pay bills. So starting a new business with new money, and then also the business that the money that it took to travel. We did tons of travel to start. That's something that we had never done before. The flights, to attend events and to build our teams. I mean, right off the bat, I was on an airplane, to God knows wherever. And that was the financial side of it, and trying to kind of juggle where we hadn't really been in that credit card system at all before. We didn't want to go there. We were afraid of that, but we had to very quickly learn how to treat it as a true business, which means sometimes you have to spend money to make money. And so that was the biggest obstacle, I would say, would be the kids and the financial side of things.
So talk about the kids, because that's a big one. I know it was for my wife when we started this. We had two kids, and the only people that watched our kids was her mother and her sister, because she just didn't trust people around her kids. So it was really tough, like, because we did a lot of events. So what were some of the struggles? Was it like babysitting situations? Like, how did you deal with that? How did you get it done with
Well,
the kids?
we didn't have family nearby, so that was the big struggle. It was a divide and conquer, basically, kind of mindset. And we really, I've always done a very good job of creating family wherever we've lived, right? So our neighbors, I mean, the people that we did life with at church or, sports or whatever, truly became like family. We did Thanksgivings and Christmases and all of that with them. And so I was forced to rely heavily on that. It takes a village mindset, and truly lean on that. Of course, when we got to the point where we did have some family nearby, we 100% utilized family. But yeah, that was a real struggle. And it was a real struggle for me too, mentally, because everybody that in the early days, it was all men. And so for me, I was one of the only women that was out traveling, and I was jealous of y'all. I mean, I was like, because you guys had a wife doing everything that I had to do at home as well. So I had to do make sure all of the library books were caught up and make sure there was groceries left and that all of the things were taken care of before I leave, and then come home to the mess of being gone, the laundry, whatever that needed to be caught up. So I was always so jealous of like watching some of the people that just got to whiz in and whiz out it was exhausting for me. It was a double fold, So, but anyhow, it is what it is. At the end of the day, everyone's going to have obstacles, men, women, however you look at it. So I just had to make that decision that, of course, I wasn't going to let that be an excuse. It had to be done, and I was the one to do it.
Did you have any hacks with your kids? Like, I know kids can be tough on you when you're leaving. I'm sure you had moments where the kids didn't want you to leave or were making you feel guilty for leaving. Do you have any tricks for people who, maybe there's someone out there listening to this that knows they need to go support a group, they need to get on a plane, but they're feeling guilty for doing that? Any insight that you could give them?
Well, honestly, I think that while there were things that I would definitely change in the way that it was handled, there were also a lot of things that I can see as a positive. And some of the positives were, my kids got to see an example of what sometimes it takes to get things done. And also, I see so many of my friends that when their kids age out, they've never done anything for themselves at all. They've never maybe been in any type of business or done anything outside of. And while I commend that in some aspects, I also think it's important for our kids to see female role models in that position as well. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices, but we did do some of what we really believed would help, which would be to involve them. We kept some charts on the fridge, and when we get to this next goal, this is what we're going to do. And we did do some of that, the Disney World, and the weekly type thing. So we definitely involved them as much as they wanted to. My kids were not very interested. I tried as much as possible to pull them into that aspect, but I mean, it was good for them. I would say at this point that they've been able to watch me speak on stage, watch me speak, watch me lead Zooms, a lot of things that they now speak really highly of in that aspect. So I'm glad that they've been able to witness. Like I said, there were definitely things that I would change, but overall, I recommend that that it not be our kids should be a reason to do this, not a reason not to do this.
I love that. That's a really strong point. I have never heard that before, because you hear that all the time. Like, people look at these opportunities and they'll use obstacles as excuses for why
Yeah.
they can't do this. Like, I don't have the time. Well, that's the exact reason you should do this,
Yeah.
right? I can't do this because I have kids. I love that perspective. That's the exact reason you should do this. So
Right.
while we're talking about it, what are some of the gifts network marketing, being able to do this full time, has afforded you as a mom that other typical moms, if you had a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 5, that you couldn't do? Like, what are some of the things you've been able to do as a mom that network marketing has rewarded you with?
Well, definitely the obvious things, being able to drop off and pick up kids. I've never missed a field trip. Not that they appreciate that. You're like, go away, go away. um, but outside of that, when we kind of hit like a roadblock with the education system and having some issues at home and whatnot, it just became like pivotal that we were going to homeschool, and being able to just drop everything, and homeschool. We were able to do that for a period that would have never been an option otherwise. So being able to volunteer alongside of in church, in schools, all of those things would have never been an option outside of network marketing. So the lifestyle that it provides for the kids is even more of a reason to, yes, there are going to be sacrifices to your time with the kids initially or possibly, but at the end of the day, the goal and the big picture, it far outweighs the day to day. You're looking, this is a long-term thing. This is what you're looking for. And absolutely, I can't even imagine what life would have been like had I not made that decision.
Yeah. What are some of the obstacles now for you? I mean, early days, kids are a big part of that, but what about today? Network marketing has changed a lot over the last few years. What are some of the things that you're seeing today are obstacles, and maybe how are you handling those obstacles?
Oh gosh, I would say the number one obstacle for me and the change in the industry is the technology. Like I got dragged kicking and screaming to that. I don't consider myself a technology person. I don't like to do live videos. Like, I'm very insecure about that. I understand it is what it is. It has to be done. I feel like I have a lot to offer in terms of authenticity like that. I thrive off of that, and I love connection, and I love connecting to people, and I love that I've learned how to utilize social media and from an authentic perspective. But there's a lot moving forward that to up my game and all the different platforms, moving into TikTok and doing more on Instagram. And that's definitely been an obstacle for sure. But one, as I move forward, I would say I've mastered the basics of Facebook pretty well. I don't do enough lives. I realize that moving forward, I'm going to have to do more of that. And that's just going to be a choice. Do I do it, or or do I not? So I would say for me, technology is the biggest obstacle at this point.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely social media technology, the way things happen. But you touched on it earlier. You know, the knee to knee, face to face, there is an element there that
Right.
cannot be replicated through social media. Like thinking back to that meeting where you sat down with this CEO, I just wonder if it would have had the same effectiveness if it was through a Zoom.
Oh gosh, no.
Yeah, no,
Of
like
course, we
the
didn't have Zoom back then, but still, no way. You
yeah,
can't. I mean, and I think that now that we've utilized Zoom for as long as we have, I think we've gotten pretty good at really trying to connect with the people on and make it very authentic. It still can't compare. It still
yeah.
can't compare.
Yeah. So let's transition a little bit. So I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the things you started doing as a business owner to start treating this thing, network marketing, this thing, like a real business. So, did you create different bank accounts? Did you start a corporation? Like, what are some of the things you did to start treating this like a business?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I still consider myself in elementary school when it comes to the financial side. That was definitely something that was never modeled, and also something that was just not familiar to me at all. But from an elementary school perspective, yes, I did at least start a separate account. I do utilize, certain credit cards only. Did develop an LLC. Yes, I use, accountants and CPAs that are familiar with our industry. So I've moved, definitely in that direction because this is an amazing business, but this is a real business and must be treated as such. And so, but like I said, we're talking kindergarten stuff here, but yes, 100% kept it as separate as I could.
I think it's one of the powerful things that a lot of people miss when they're building teams is when someone joins a network marketing company, for the business aspect of it, whatever the product, whatever the service is, obviously that has to be in alignment. But then there's the
Right.
business of it. Um, People only become a consultant or distributor or rep, whatever you call it, to earn money. There's only one reason to become a distributor, and that's to earn money.
Right.
And so ultimately, when someone joins your network marketing company, they have joined to put themselves in a better financial position than they're currently in. Right. That's
Yeah.
why they're here. And so I would love, I love talking, especially with female leaders, because the majority is females. Like it's over 70%, 75%. In some countries, it's over close to 80% of the distributors in a country are females. But I also believe there is a huge need there for mentorship because there's so many females that maybe for the first time in their life are owning their own first business and don't really know what to do and who to trust. And so I love that you've taken those steps to do that. And I guess my question is, what are some of the things from a like asset or money protection? Like, are you more of a saver? Are you investing some? Like, what's kind of your philosophy around the earnings that you're getting? Because I know, you're obviously have made lots of money. And so we want to preserve it. What's been some of your action steps?
Well, I probably won't be the best example in this aspect, Brandon. Right
You
now,
bought another horse.
exactly.
You guys, Melissa, I
I
know
know.
Melissa well enough. Her horses, I don't know, children horses.
Well, that's the partly, let's just say my kids won't let me. They don't, like, God forbid I post anything about them or take photos of them. So I always tell people, I'm like, I actually do have children. They just don't want to be on camera and they don't want to be on social media. So they avoid it at all costs. But it's funny. I've been listening a ton to your Freedom Factory And then Ray Higdon has done quite a bit. I'm on his podcast on a regular basis as well, focused on the financial side of things. And I wish I had dug into this more in the early days of network marketing. I really do. I remember when we would reach out and ask for advice, nobody wanted to give it because maybe they didn't want the liability of feeling like they were given financial advice, but nobody knew, like, what do we do? How do we treat this? And we were in survival mode for so long that, by the time we got to the point where I could actually retire, the truth be told, it was still just replacing that income.
Yeah.
We're still on that journey of getting to the point where we would have over and above. Now, what we have done is we've purchased homes that we've been able to, we have invested in other businesses. One of which has, I took a hobby and have been able to turn it into a full-fledged business. Our breeding business has by no means created investments, but has made a name for itself. And it's been a great way to take money from one business and shovel it into another. That is something that we were going to do anyhow.
Mm-hmm. And that business gives you a tax. A lot of people miss that. Like one of the best things you can,
yeah, of course,
can do. Yeah, is have a tax strategy. Like if you have a passion in life, which yours is fitness, but also horses. If you can make a business in the horse world, now you have tax shelter in something 100%. That you were going to already spend money at.
Now my tax professional screams if I ever use the word tax shelter. But yes, it is a strategy. We can use the word strategy for sure, because it's something I was going to do anyhow. And it has allowed me to basically run it as a business and treat it as a business as well. And also provide a strategy for that income. And so I've learned so much from that. Now I'm just coming out the other side where now I want to start taking it much more seriously from a perspective of I want to have more of it, not just be moving it into another business or another business. I actually want to have more of it to build more long term. And so I'm really at the early stages of that, leaning heavily on some, learning from mentors like yourself.
Capital preservation. Like at the end of the day, if you start this business around horses and you're able to get $5, $10, $15, $20,000 in tax credits, let's call it, that's $20,000 that you would have given to the IRS.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
Your money now that you get to do and invest. So you mentioned, I got the feel that when you got started, you talked about credit card debt, you talked about the restaurants. Was that some of the first things you did, was try to tackle some of the debt when you guys started going full time in network marketing and the money started ramping up? Did you have credit card debt? Did you have to get out of debt? Like, what did that look like?
We didn't have credit card debt, but we owned 2 homes that we couldn't sell at all. So we had to just literally dump one. I can't think of the program that they had at the time. It was just below a foreclosure, but a short sale. So we short saled our home. It was basically like, the water was coming in faster than we can shovel the water out. So it was a matter of just a clean break and walking away from that. So we really were at that place. We didn't have credit card debt. We were at that place of just a clean slate, to be honest, Mm-hmm. But again, it was still replacing the income that just kept us afloat. It was still just the basics of paying for cars, paying for insurances, and paying for life, a house over our heads and cell phones and things of that sort. Plus the travel and all of that it took.
Yeah. So, last question for you. Over and above the money you've earned in network marketing, what is the most valuable thing network marketing has given you outside of the commissions?
I would say relationships. People. I mean, people are, to me, at the end of the day, the most important thing. When you lie on your deathbed, what are you gonna kind of cling to? And so the relationships that I've built inside this industry are so valuable to me. I literally consider you and Lynette and so many others like just family, absolute family. But it's also principles. I would say principles would be my number 2. The principles that it's provided me in terms of, you can do anything that you put your heart into, that you can do anything that you decide to do. That has also been just a tremendous principle. But at the end of the day, You cannot beat the connections that we have in this profession. It's amazing.
For sure. I love the saying that your net worth is really your network.
Oh, I
Like
love that.
you can always tell
So true.
someone's net worth when you get introduced to their network.
Yeah,
Period.
absolutely.
That's what
And
it is.
the people that this has brought into our lives that has just created such an enrichment I would have never met or had the opportunity to be exposed to had it not been for this profession. It's been
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing ride, an amazing ride.
Yeah. Well, it's been great having you with us here today. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me.
And I'll look to maybe have you back on one of the next podcasts in the future. We'll get to know what's going on with Melissa at that time. So
No, I'll
thank you
be
so much.
keep jumping on and learning from you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.